Last week, I had the privilege of watching The Holdovers, a film that generated considerable Oscar buzz last year. Set in 1970s New England, it tells the story of an unusual bond between a mysterious ancient civilizations teacher and a gifted but lost student at a prestigious private school. Although the storyline may feel familiar, it provides a compelling foundation for the discussion we're about to begin. As I immersed myself in this film, I was deeply moved both as an aspiring artist and a seasoned theater creator. The film rekindled a strong desire within me, highlighting a persistent gap in my artistic education: the lack of a formal classical foundation. Classical education, once esteemed but now regrettably rare in our schools, is a structured approach centered around grammar, logic, and rhetoric. Rooted in the works of ancient thinkers like Aristotle and Plato, this philosophy promotes a deeper understanding of the world. By engaging with the Western canon, it not only enhances intellectual skills but also cultivates the ability to critically analyze the complexities of modern life. Reflecting on my journey as an artist and composer, I lament the wasted years spent in an education system devoid of substantive artistic nourishment. Instead of fostering creativity and honing storytelling skills, my education focused on rote memorization and mechanical exercises. This lack of emphasis on expression and narrative left me ill-prepared to navigate the complexities of the creative world, leading to a path marked by intellectual arrogance and eventually disillusionment. In today's society, where the demand for artistic expression is high, but often misunderstood, the absence of a solid understanding of the arts is glaring. This gap arises from a deliberate estrangement from the wisdom of the past, a troubling trend that leaves us adrift in a sea of unexamined ideas and societal discord. As modern artists and creatives, our task is clear: to bridge the gap between past and present by infusing our work with timeless wisdom. However, this effort is futile without a foundational understanding of our artistic heritage, highlighting the importance of classical education in our pursuit of creative excellence. The challenges facing modern artists are numerous, requiring a recalibration of our education paradigms and a reclamation of the principles that have guided artistic endeavors through the ages. Only then can we navigate the vast expanse of human creativity with humility, reverence, and purpose. As an artist and a theatrical creative myself, I strongly advocate for the merits of a classical education. Despite its inherent biases, and there are biases, its foundational principles offer a profound framework for understanding and examination, skills that are essential to our roles as discerning explorers of the human experience. In today's video, I aim to present a compelling case for aspiring artists, creatives, and arts enthusiasts about the benefits of embracing a classical education. We're going to go through the historical significance of classical pedagogy, its relevance to artistic creation, and the critical thinking skills it fosters. Classical education, as I'm using the term, has its origins in ancient Greece and Rome. It began with the Homeric oral tradition, where knowledge was passed down through storytelling and direct instruction. Over time, figures like the sophists, Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle defined a good education as including the following key components: the liberal arts, civic and ethical training, and literature and philosophy. Now, the liberal arts comprise subjects such as grammar, logic, arithmetic, music, geometry, and astronomy. Civic and ethical training aim to prepare individuals to be active and responsible members of society. Literature and philosophy were studied to engage deeply with classical texts, fostering critical thinking and personal growth. Classical education has evolved from its ancient roots into a system that emphasizes critical thinking and understanding. This approach often results in students developing a rich artistic life. Why is this the case? What about the educational focus creates such enthusiasts and practitioners of the arts? Well, one reason is that classical education prioritizes the development of the individual as a thinker. By studying texts like Marcus Aurelius's Meditations, students learn to engage with ideas critically and personally rather than accepting them passively. This process is essential for artistic development. An artist who can thoughtfully engage with concepts and express themselves clearly is likely to make meaningful contributions to the arts. The emphasis on literature makes classical education incredibly valuable to an artist. Within the classical canon, students encounter a wide array of literary themes, characters, and artistic works. They can learn efficient storytelling techniques and understand how to manipulate certain rules to craft compelling narratives. Take Hadestown, for example, my recent favorite musical. On the surface, it's a great story about a young man's infatuation. However, a classically educated artist sees it, first off, as a modern adaptation of the Orpheus myth. The show does nothing to hide this, but it actually develops the Orpheus myth into a modern story. A classically educated artist might see deeper themes in it beyond just love. They understand that Orpheus's story is also about arrogance. Despite many chances for success, Orpheus's lack of trust that Eurydice is following him out of the underworld ultimately leads to failure. This interpretation can inspire audiences to reflect on how doubt and mistrust can create barriers to success, symbolized by the metaphorical wall that we build. A basic understanding of philosophy is also crucial for artistic expression. Many scripts are written by individuals influenced by historical philosophical movements. For example, an actor working with an Ibsen script must wrestle with the high concepts of naturalism. Kierkegaard's work likely influenced Ibsen, as critics in the time of his premiere of A Doll's House said that the stage was full of philosophers in skirts. Aristotle's prescriptions for what makes good drama are still widely adhered to and broken in the theater. Understanding these philosophical underpinnings is valuable not only for interpretation, but also for constructing good new theater. Finally, history is valuable to the artist, and this goes beyond historical accuracy. An artist should be able to separate themselves from historical perspectives that may have changed. Too often, we see artists dismiss works or characters as problematic because they reflect outdated views. This perspective is neither important nor useful to the modern artist. Classical education, with its focus on the self as an entity away from the idea, and the interpretation of ideas without accepting them uncritically, teaches artists to engage with ideas on their own level and thus create a modern perspective. Classical education teaches artists to be formalist in their approach. Modern artists can find great value in the classical education's focus on developing critical thinking and problem-solving skills. Formalism, often seen as the future of arts, is in no ways a new concept anymore. As early as Strindberg, theater has shifted toward formalism, exploring ideas and concepts separate from emotional and social concerns. Classical education can enhance this perspective through its emphasis on rhetorical training and communication skills. A fundamental aspect of classical education is the use of ethos, pathos, and logos. These rhetorical principles are essential for crafting compelling narratives. Artists, whether writers, filmmakers, or playwrights, can use these principles to create more engaging and convincing stories. For instance, an ethos establishes the credibility through well-researched and authentic characters or settings. The pathos evokes emotions through vivid imagery, relatable scenarios, and empathetic characters. And finally, the logos constructs a logical flow of events that make the story coherent and believable. Applying this framework can enhance communication skills, addressing a common challenge in modern art creation, the lack of clear communication. The best way to learn these skills is through the analysis of classical texts. Not just Shakespeare here, who is commonly taught in theatrical training programs, but I also mean works of philosophy, the Stoics, the Sophists, the Latin authors, the Latin playwrights, the Greek playwrights, the other Renaissance England playwrights, and later playwrights. Textual analysis is crucial for creating compelling presentations and arguments, enhancing artists' ability to present their ideas effectively. Moreover, the concept of the trivium, which is a key component of classical education, can be particularly beneficial for artists. It involves learning foundational elements first, then understanding the how and the why, and finally mastering the art of expression and communication. This structured approach might as well be a guideline for your standard theatrical rehearsal. It can help artists create more powerful and informed works by understanding not only that they have to say this line, but why they are saying this line and how best to share with the audience why the line is being said. Many modern artists break rules without understanding their origins, making it essential for creatives to recognize the foundations they build upon. We stand upon many shoulders, and a classical education shows just what type of shoulders we stand upon. However, this is where we bring up the problem with the classical education. And it's important to acknowledge that criticisms of classical education are mostly based around the concept of its Western bias and the predominance of white male perspectives. And all of this is true. While this is a valid concern, it doesn't mean we should dismiss 3,000 years of thought. Instead, we can approach classical education with a critical lens, which is exactly what classical education teaches. Using classical thought and principles to wrestle with the biases and outdated ideas that one might encounter in studying some of this literature or in studying some of the philosophy, we can actually come up with modern interpretations of the work. A classical education provides the tools to examine and reinterpret these concepts through art, making it a valuable resource for modern artists. Turning the very things it teaches against itself might produce amazing pieces. Hadestown is a wonderful example of this, in that the Orpheus myth is presented here, but it is not presented with the standard bias toward Orpheus. We hear Eurydice, we hear Persephone, we hear even Hades, who is actually left out of many of the Orpheus myths and is usually a silent figure. Anyway, to my conclusion. A classical education can significantly enhance the career of modern artists and creatives. As an artist and theatrical creative myself, I do recognize the substantial benefits of a classical education despite its inherent biases and the problems that may be encountered. Perhaps a future video will discuss this. The reason why I bring all of this up is that I am attracted to the classical education as a way to rejuvenate my own career after a period of some stagnation. I have decided to pursue the classical education curricula I never had. And I invite you, fellow artists and enthusiasts, to join me on this journey. Let me know in the comments if you're interested in joining me, and I can create videos and organize reading clubs as we explore this expansive repertoire together. In an upcoming video, I will propose methods to reform musical theater education to foster resilience and creativity, and this will likely include some incorporation of classical education as well. Together, we can establish a community reminiscent of the one that was present in the holdovers, where we educate ourselves not only as artists, but as well-rounded individuals. And I have thoughts like this on the regular, And if you're interested in finding out more information about who I am and what I do as an artist, you can actually go to my website. It is present underneath this video, julianarmunds.com. And if you're interested, I do offer online classes. But if you're not interested in any of this, you know what would really help me out? Just a like and maybe a comment. It really helps the algorithm find videos like this, and it helps me grow the channel so that I can provide more videos like this. Thank you.